What is it in life that you want to be known for? When you're dead and gone, how do you want to be remembered? Often we want to be known for what we've accomplished, or maybe our personality, or the way that we've treated other people. And the reality behind each of those things is a desire to be known for what we have done or what we are like, and both of those things have to do with, you guessed it, us. See, today is a day that much of the church world remembers the Apostle John. He's easily one of the most prominent followers of Jesus in the New Testament. He was one of the first people to follow Jesus. Him and his brother James were called the Sons of Thunder, which I think is a pretty awesome nickname. He was one of Jesus's inner three out of the 12 alongside Peter and James. He was on the mountain when Jesus was transfigured with Peter and James, and he, along with, you guessed it, Peter and James, were in the house when Jesus raised Jairus' daughter from the dead. He and Peter prepared everything for the Passover meal that Jesus and his disciples would eat at the Last Supper that Thursday night. And during the Last Supper, John sat to the right of Jesus. It says he reclined next to him in that honorable seat. And on the night that Jesus was arrested, he and along with the rest of the inner three were taken further into the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus was fervently praying. And then when Jesus was hanging on the cross, this more somber of a note here, it was John, the only disciple present. And Jesus looked out at him and said, "Will you take care of my mother?" He gave him instructions to do that. John would go on to write 5 books in the New Testament, the Gospel John, and then 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, and then lastly, the book of Revelation. John had quite the resume. With all that being said, it's always kind of irked me and bothered me that John, when referring to himself in the gospel he wrote, never referred to himself by name. Rather, whenever he refers to himself, he gives himself the title, the disciple that Jesus loved. And I used to always find this to be an arrogant posture by John. I mean, when referring to any of the other disciples, he refers to them by name, but he alone was given this title, the disciple that Jesus loved. But as I've studied it, no scholar or theologian thinks that John was being pompous or prideful. In fact, most believe that this was John's way of being humble. And when I reflect on John today, I'm drawn back to the thought that what do we want to be known for in this life? And John wanted to be known for the fact that Jesus loved him. Who was John? Someone that Jesus loved. To John, that was more important than you knowing anything else about him, including his name. See, for John, being loved by Jesus wasn't simply how he wanted to be known. It was also how he understood himself, his own identity. And man, in a world filled with lofty expectations and a whole bunch of self-deprecation, I think I'm going to take a note from John today. Who am I? I'm someone that's loved by Jesus. How do I see myself, my worth, my value? I am someone that's loved by Jesus. I don't believe that Jesus actually loved John more than the other disciples, in the same way that I don't think he loves John more than you or me, for that matter. But maybe John understood and received the love of Jesus more deeply and more readily. I'm also drawn to the fact that John desired closeness to Jesus. He was the closest to him at the Lord's Supper, and he was also the closest to him at his crucifixion. And the good and the bad, John wanted to be close to Jesus. You want to be close to those that love you and those you love in return, in the highs and the lows of this life. What I want to challenge us to do today is to take some time to reflect on John, the disciple Jesus loved, and reflect on yourself. How do you want to be known? As one that Jesus loves. How do you see yourself today? And every day going forward, maybe we join John in this. As followers of Jesus, we are those that Jesus loves.